All right, let's jump right into this explainer of a nearly 90-year-old book that sold well over 15 million copies, and honestly, pretty much shaped modern success philosophy. We are talking about Napoleon Hill's 1937 classic, Think and Grow Rich. Whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or just someone fascinated by the psychology of achievement, you have definitely bumped into these ideas before. But today, we're going to look way past the hype and break down exactly what this text is actually saying.
Here's our roadmap for today. First, the man behind the myth. Second, 3 feet from gold. Third, the 13 success principles. Fourth, transforming desire into wealth. Fifth, overcoming the 6 fears. And finally, does it still work?
Section 1. The man behind the myth.
Now, this is wild. There's a massive, striking contrast between the legend of Napoleon Hill and the actual historical record. On one side, we have the legendary story Hill sold to the world. He claimed that back in 1908, he was mentored by the incredibly wealthy industrialist Andrew Carnegie, who supposedly challenged him to interview America's most successful men. Hill even claimed he advised President Woodrow Wilson and helped write FDR's famous fireside chats. But then, you look at the historical record, and it tells a completely different story. Researchers have found absolutely zero evidence that Hill ever even met Carnegie. To make things crazier, historical documents show Hill founded scam colleges, dodged arrest warrants across multiple states, and faced charges from the FTC for false advertising. I mean, it's a seriously controversial background for the guy who literally wrote the ultimate guide to success.
Section 2, 3 feet from gold.
Regardless of his crazy past, Hill's book is anchored by some undeniably powerful parables, and you've got to hear the story of R.U. Darby. So the story goes that Darby and his uncle caught gold fever, headed west, found a vein, and bought all this heavy machinery to mine it. But eventually, the vein just dried up, completely disappeared. Totally frustrated, they quit, selling all their expensive machinery to a local junk man for just a few $100. But that junk man was sharp. He hired a mining engineer who calculated that the gold vein would actually pick right back up exactly 3 feet from where Darby had stopped drilling. And guess what? It did. The junk man made millions. Darby learned a pretty devastating lesson that day, but he actually harnessed that sting. He later used it to sell over $1 million in life insurance annually simply by refusing to ever quit when people told him no.
So what's the real takeaway here? Quitting at the very first sign of opposition is the actual failure. Hill argues that a temporary defeat, well, that just means your original plan wasn't quite sound yet. It's a loud and clear signal to rebuild the plan, not to abandon your goal. Like they say, a quitter never wins and a winner never quits.
Section 3, the 13 success principles.
This brings us right to the core method of Hill's philosophy, his 13 psychological steps to riches. And listen, Hill argued these are not just casual suggestions you can pick and choose from a buffet. They are a rigid, interconnected sequence that you absolutely must master in order. You start with desire, build faith, use autosuggestion to program your mind, acquire specialized knowledge, use your imagination to create an organized plan, make a firm decision, back it up with persistence, build a mastermind group, channel your energy through transmutation, and ultimately get your subconscious mind, brain, and sixth sense all aligned to spot opportunities.
Let's zero in on principle number 2, which is faith. Hill actually called faith the head chemist of the mind. Now, he doesn't necessarily mean this in a strictly religious sense, but rather as an absolute, uncompromising belief in your objective. You have to actively program your subconscious to literally expect success. Because think about it, if you approach your business with a deep-seated fear of failure, your subconscious is just going to execute on that fear. You have to convince your mind that you will get what you're asking for, so it automatically hunts for success.
And honestly, that brilliantly highlights the need for Principle 8, persistence. Persistence is the direct antidote to failure. It is the exact opposite of quitting 3 feet from gold, but it requires a definite purpose backed by a burning desire. Hill pointed out that the vast majority of people just throw in the towel at the very first sign of opposition. Truly cultivating persistence means shutting your mind tightly against all negative influences and building a routine that makes your sustained effort practically automatic.
Which brings us perfectly to Principle 9, the mastermind. Now, a mastermind isn't just some casual networking event where you grab a coffee and swap business cards. No way. Hill defines it as a powerful, harmonious coordination of specialized minds that are 100% dedicated to a single definite purpose. It's getting highly driven people together to collectively solve big problems. In fact, he states that no two minds ever come together without creating a third, invisible, intangible superforce.
Section 4. Transforming desire into wealth.
So let's look at the very first, most critical principle, desire, and how you actually turn it into wealth. Hill is super clear here. Just wishing for money is completely useless. Everyone wishes for things. You have to transform that wish into a burning obsession by using 6 highly specific, uncompromising steps. You fix the exact amount in your head. You figure out exactly what value you're giving the market in return, because there is no such thing as something for nothing. You pick a definite date, you create a concrete plan, and you start instantly, whether you feel ready or not. You write all of this down into a clear statement. And finally, you read it out loud twice a day.
That final step, reading your goal out loud, is what Hill calls autosuggestion. It's essentially a cognitive hack that forces your subconscious to fully internalize your objective. By reading your statement out loud with genuine emotion every single morning and every single night, you are literally self-administering a mental program. You're overriding those old limiting beliefs until your desire becomes an automatic, unstoppable drive.
Section 5. Overcoming the 6 fears.
But what actually stops people from completing these steps? Well, Hill identified 6 destructive ghosts that basically hijack the human mind. The fear of poverty, criticism, ill health, loss of love, old age, and death. Nearly all of us suffer from some combo of these. But Hill argues that the fear of poverty is by far the absolute worst and most difficult to master. Why? Because it stems from our historical tendency to prey on one another economically. These fears are incredibly dangerous because they usually operate in the background. A little indecision crystallizes into doubt, and before you know it, those two blend into a totally paralyzing fear.
So how do you beat them? Hill stresses that you have to actively name your fears to defeat them. If you don't aggressively confront and name them, they just germinate unseen in the back of your mind. They mutate from simple indecision into a handy excuse, and finally into a full-blown fear that totally derails your organized plan. You have to drag these ghosts right out into the light and strategize exactly how to lessen them using your willpower and autosuggestion.
Section 6. Does it still work? So it's been almost 90 years since publication. Is this controversial, sometimes mystical-sounding framework actually still relevant to us today? Well, sure, Hill's 1930s language about thought vibrations acting as a broadcasting station might sound a bit dated to our modern ears. But the core mechanics, they map perfectly to modern entrepreneurial psychology. Today's venture capitalists are actively looking for founders who use rapid decision-making, specialized knowledge, and tight mastermind networks. The global economy has completely evolved, sure, but the fundamental mindset required to extract value from it, that hasn't changed one bit.
The foundational premise of the entire book undeniably holds up today. Thoughts are things. It is such a simple phrase, but it's incredibly profound. Poverty and wealth are both offspring of thought. If your subconscious truly expects to struggle, your daily actions, your posture, your business decisions are all going to align perfectly with that reality. But if you demand success and actively program your mind with a burning desire, you automatically begin hunting for opportunities that you normally would have just walked right past.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought. Take a really hard, honest look at your current path. Ask yourself, are you truly acting on a burning, relentless desire backed by an organized plan and a real mastermind group? Or are you secretly letting those 6 basic fears pull the strings, putting you at risk of quitting just 3 feet from gold? The blueprint is right here, but the execution, that is entirely on you. Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and keep pushing forward.